Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of a run through. This is Black Skylands Origins. This came out on April 30th. It is by Hungry Couch Games and then published by Tiny Build. The actual game is not out until Q4 of this year, it says, but this is it feels like a prologue, sort of early view of the game. But from what I can tell, it seems like there's quite a bit here. Already, and what is here is really enjoyable, so I'm excited to sort of see more of it and see what they do with it, and hopefully give you guys a look at it, because it's definitely a super interesting one. I'm sort of gonna skim through this video and do this a little differently than I normally do, because I normally play and do it, but this one I'm gonna try to do a voiceover of recorded footage, just to see if that works better as a little more concise and coherent, because I find sometimes I have difficulty while playing a game actually talking about it, and especially for one that I didn't know anything about, so I wanted to do that. So that's a little bit of a preamble there. So it's not a roguelike like I normally do, but it has a lot of elements of roguelike stuff to it, so I figured I might as well look at it for this, because it is similar enough to one, I think, to where if you're a fan of those kind of things, you would get something out of this. So I figured we would take a look. So it's the basic premise is you live, or the world is in the sky now, and so you live on a ship that has its own means of harvesting things and making resources, growing crops, have shops, stuff like that on there. Which I'll show you that ship here in a little bit. This is sort of I don't want to say a dungeon, because you sort of fly to islands, but they're set up in a way a typical dungeon might be set up. I believe they're all static, though. It doesn't seem like there is a randomness to these. I could be completely wrong though, but as you see, it's a top-down shooter. You have a dodge, you have melee, you have a couple different weapons. One pretty wild thing though is you do have the ability to modify weapons, so they have different like ammo clips and other things that pop up, which I was really surprised to see, and I think it's a pretty neat addition to this game. It feels really good so far. It's a little loose, but I think it just needs a tad bit of tightening up overall. But again, they have till the end of this year for what they're saying, the end of this year, so I think they have plenty of time to actually take their time and refine that stuff. But again, from what's here now, it feels great, and it's been really enjoyable to play. As you can see on the shot indicator, if you stay still, you'll get better aim. That's typical of some games like this. I played this on the mouse and keyboard, and on an Xbox Elite controller, and I'll say the actual gameplay, like the action here, the shooting and stuff, feels way better on a controller than the mouse and keyboard. But the flying of the ship, which I forgot to mention, you have your own ship, which is pretty neat also. It's how you sort of get to each island. That feels better on the mouse and keyboard, which is really strange, because generally it's the opposite. But I guess that's not always true. Twin stick shooters do feel pretty good on a controller, but so that's the basic setup here. From what it seems like, this mission, I'm going to meet with someone and then sort of talk to them a little bit, and see what the next move to make is. I believe your ship is destroyed. This isn't really spoiling anything. It's sort of the first thing that happens, other than the brief tutorial. But your ship's destroyed, and so you're by this, I think the Valkans is the name of it, or something like that. They've destroyed your ship, killed your father, which that happens in games pretty often, and then you're going to sort of avenge him, I imagine, and sort of setting up base or getting your life back together, more or less. But yeah, there's a couple. I've already seen a few. I'd say a handful of different enemy types as it is. There is also some kind of wilder creatures and stuff too that I've seen, which I didn't record. That was sort of before this started. Before I was like, oh yeah, I want to cover this, so I hadn't really recorded that bit. One thing I will say about the prologue, which is really nice, is it does save it, and you can just return whenever. So it feels like a proper prequel as opposed to a sequel, or not a sequel. I'm sorry, but as a demo. It's really similar to how Dreamscaper Prologue is set up. That's why I sort of reference those two, and I think that's kind of what this is. But yeah, the map itself is actually pretty large. Let me see if I can skip to a scene where I actually see the map itself. Actually, I'll quickly stop here. So this is giving you your gun section. You have different weapons that you pick up, but you can modify each of them, like I was saying, with different attachments as you find them, which I think is really neat and kind of adds to the gameplay itself and a little bit of the longevity by being able to sort of min-max guns for your liking, which you don't see very often. You usually see like the ability to get completely new guns, which obviously you do, but the ability to actually modify them, I think, is a really nice addition. I also will take this time to note that the art style is beautiful. It has a really interesting sort of top-down view to it. A lot of the like flagpoles and stuff, if you walk around them, you'll see the base to them and things, and it'll sort of rotate. It's really neat though. It has a good look to it, and I think the art style is really well put together. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna skip ahead just a little bit to see if I can't find a view of the map here. You see here that I've zoomed in on the actual area. I was like kind of stuck for the moment. But the map itself that you already have available is pretty large, and then based on what it looks like, there's another at least like 4 major areas that I can see, which makes me think like this would be a pretty substantial game, which is awesome. So yeah, that's always good to see that there's actual game there. And from what, again, the little bit I've played so far is fun, so I'm glad to see more of that. I'm gonna hit skip forward just a little bit. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. So if you see here, the main this is something pretty interesting. So you have a grappling hook too. That's sort of your main traversal. You can use it to break open boxes. You can pull to environments. You can pull enemies and stuff to you. But I think something interesting with that is that there's some environmental puzzles so far that sort of use that mechanic, and I think they have a opportunity to really branch out with that and do something pretty neat. Because this is a very simple puzzle that's coming up here, but again, it still shows like sort of what you have the ability to, because these boxes are completely out of reach. But if you roll and sort of grapple there, then you have that option to get those, and then roll and grapple back, which is cool. It's another little thing, but I think overall it adds to the whole package, making it a pretty neat and kind of different setup here. I'm gonna skip the boss fight though, just because I don't, I want you to experience that yourself. Here is my ship. You have a cargo hold. It also takes fuel to use. I will say the driving of the ship, it doesn't. You have a forwards and back, or accelerate and reverse, in different sort of tiers, but they don't. I wish there was like some kind of indicator to know how fast or how slow, just to gauge, like even if they had just like a little dial that would show you speed or something, and your maximum would be a real nice addition. I assume too, just based on the fact that you can modify weapons and stuff, you'll be able to upgrade and modify your ship as well. I haven't seen that anywhere, and I haven't read too much into it, but just based on the nature of the stuff, I mean, if you can build houses and farm plots and stuff on your base ship, I would have to assume you'll be able to do it on your vessel that you're driving around. But I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me on that. But again, I can assume it at least. I'm going to go ahead a little bit farther too. Yeah, so this is sort of your main ship here. I think I have trouble docking it here, but that's, whatever. But this is going to be your main ship here, so you'll dock to it and however you see fit. Like I said, this is where I wish that I could tell kind of how fast I was going, because obviously you can visibly see how fast you're going, but I can't really tell when the engines are cut or if I'm going to drift it, Just I wish there was a better indicator for that. But this is sort of your homestead. As you can see, these plots have been destroyed, so you can clear the debris there, and then you have the ability to set up different shops and things. I think from what it seems narratively, they're having you set up specific ones, which I imagine you'll be able to sort of change that up later if you feel like. But the next mission I get is to build an armory, which I don't do. This is where I sort of stopped and said, I think I've seen enough. I want to show you guys what it is. So here it's going to take me, it's going to task me with doing that, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, pretty simple. That's all I really wanted to show you guys. And I think if you're a fan of top-down games, or you're a fan of roguelike, even if you like kind of like Stardew Valley, stuff like that, but you wish there was maybe a little more action, I wouldn't say necessarily that it's the same type of game, but it has a lot of similar elements, I think, that that I think you would find enjoyment with. Because I always really liked Stardew Valley. I thought the combat was a little, you know, could be more. No, that's obviously not the focus of that game, but I always appreciate a little bit more action in my games, especially as a fan of roguelikes, as you guys know. So, so yeah. That's pretty much it. That's Black Skyland Origins. As always, guys, if you have any roguelikes you'd like me to check out, please leave it in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that shit. Thank you guys for watching, and remember, boys, to keep twisting them tits.